So, Bill, specifically, what are some of the risk, rewards, consequences, and discoveries since the publication of your book that you mention in this presentation?
Well, it's been, I categorize it this way for a number of different reasons, basically for simplicity. So let me start out with risks. Um, there's the risk of change, and then I comment that it's never too late to be what you might have been. And I borrowed that from the novelist George Eliot. Moving out of my comfort zone is another risk. The ever present, mostly hidden minefields of white supremacy, are abundant. And I must say that these are risks that I'm exposing about myself that I've experienced, but these are things that others can too. Balancing courage and fear. For example, in various presentations I have made to school boards, village and town boards. Uh, Another one is not being complicit through silence or inaction. For example, the blog post on my website or the Black Lives Matter weekly vigils that I participate in. And allowing myself to be more vulnerable through active listening. There's risks associated with that as well. In terms of the rewards, the key one that I always reference is the relationships. And that's reconnecting with former ones, broadening existing ones, and forging new ones. Um, Secondly, hope fortified by becoming familiar with the lived experience of 400 plus years of Black resiliency. This has greatly influenced my overall growth, including spiritual. Learning the true and authentic history of our nation's past has been another reward. For example, how our economy today wouldn't be possible without the evil of slavery, which is just an ironic statement to make. Um, Listening to the insight and reflections of my grandchildren, and that's where the true hope resides. These are the rewards. In terms of the consequences, being labeled or identified in unimaginable ways. Also, family and friends shunning in silence. These are rare, but impactful. Um, Understanding that even though we are not responsible for the past, we are all accountable for what we do or don't do today. That's a consequence. Being shouted at for speaking at a school board meeting or simply holding a Black Lives Matter sign and with an American flag on a street corner. And then regarding church, I've gone through the consequence of affiliation changes, still within the Catholic discipline, but, moving in a different direction, even prior to publication. So it's just been uh, amplified this year even more in terms of that being a consequence. Discoveries. I came up with another term that basically is defined as fragile old white guys or fogies. The moral of the story is don't be easily offended and try to maintain a sense of humor. So that was a little discovery along the way that makes sense. Um, the incredible depths of white supremacy and white confoundedness regarding racism has been just an incredible, discovery, and I'm going to get more into that later. Uh, the intersectionality and complexities and knots of politics, and knots meaning KNOTS, of politics, religion, regarding advocacy and pursuit of social and racial justice. An ongoing conundrum is the confluence of increasing gun violence, poverty, racism, and despair. What can be done? I mean, one thing is that every vote matters, as we've seen a lot in the most recent midterm elections. Opportunities to discuss these expanding realities via presentations and ongoing writing via my website's blog posts, and even this interview.